Chapter 12. The Battle. The ring went shit. Can you hear me? This is Ariel. We are at 80%. Are you able to talk? It was the voice of Ariel emanating from the ring. This was more good news. She could contact me after all. I wondered what took her so long. I answered quietly and with some relief. Yes, I can hear you. Fantastic, came the reply. Are the Watchers or Nephilim near you? That is what we call them, I asked. I told her I didn't see any of them and was miles away at an RV park. Don't worry about the humans hearing us, she said. I couldn't contact you because the Watchers can hear, and the Bigfoot can track. You must have the case, she said with a bit of static. How did you know? I asked with some surprise. She replied that they knew how these meetings go. A shadow man with a briefcase is the MO. When I didn't return, they figured it out by the extensive search they were making. It was not business as usual. She said I was uniquely positioned to gain intelligence, but getting the briefcase was an unexpected bonus. I saw how the case was used, I told her, but I don't understand it. It is a long story, she said, avoiding getting into it over the ring. For now, we just have to get you out of there, she added. I asked why she couldn't fly here and get me. She replied that it would take days of battle. Getting me to a rendezvous point was easier. She reminded me that a war is ongoing, and the enemy is not easily ignored. The enemy is entrenched. Like C.S. Lewis once said, we are in enemy territory. The only reason I got away as I did was my status as a ghost to them. Now I had something to deliver and had stirred up a hornet's nest in the process. Satan himself was setting up shop soon and currently lacked his planned coordination. We need to get you to one of our strongholds, she said. The nearest one is just a couple of miles away. I replied, that sounds great. A stronghold, just what I need. How do I get there? We'll use the ring, she said. Just follow the icons I send you. It is better than GPS. I imagined she was smiling at that one. The voice crackled. There is some risk, in any case. No one must see the case move. Such a witness would be unprecedented and certainly attract the attention of any shadows who can appear rapidly if they know an exact place. The town you are in hosts legions of demons. Even most churches are just fronts for their work. Safe to say, you'll have to wait until dark, and you will have to cut across a major interstate highway. That won't be easy, even at night. In addition, they will be able to track the case if they get close enough, and they can sneak close by way of Big Canyon Creek, east of the city. Ariel, one last thing. Satan is coming. There was silence on the line. Did I surprise Ariel? Nonetheless, she responded with a thank you, and a time for me to get to the rendezvous point. Expect a flurry of UFO sightings tonight. Try to stay hidden and think of creative strategies to get across the highway, she told me. My location hid the case satisfactorily, but I felt exposed. I would be visible if I were still embodied. The humans couldn't see the angels unless given permission, and the devils stole bodies to get around. Humans and other creatures served as their vehicles of evil, but I would need an actual vehicle. Should I risk finding a ride and find myself further away? As I sat there, I felt frustrated. A car could fly by at any moment, or someone could glance out a window from one of the RVs or homes. Humans are predators. We notice movement. I surveyed my surroundings once more. While facing the road, I could see a long wooden privacy fence. Behind that were some residences situated among random pine trees and perennials. If I sprinted tonight, keeping the case low to the ground, it would probably be mistaken for an opossum. On the other side of the rural road was farmland with mowed green grass. By reckoning based on my arrival, the interstate was just yards behind the RV park. Large oaks and pine obscured it, but I could hear the trailer trucks whiz by. Interstate 5 was a 4-lane highway with a largely bare median. I could get there quickly by sticking close to the fence or oscillating between the RVs and shrubbery. Beyond the trees, only unanswered questions remained. I wasn't sure Ariel would have me take a more direct route anyway. I pondered these things for a while when I noticed a black sedan pull up to the RV park. The vehicle's make and model were unknown to me. 2 men exited the car dressed in black like the urban legends. Each sported black fedoras out of place for such a tourist spot. Then they walked into the main office house and disappeared. Only 5 minutes later, the men casually walked out and drove away. It was a Hollywood moment and very suspicious, but nothing was surprising after what I experienced between heaven and earth. If people only knew the battles and intrigue behind the curtain of reality, they would never see their lives as humdrum. As the sun continued its journey west, I saw something that could have put a kink in our plan. Across the field, opposite the street, I saw a long row of shadow hat men combing the area headed in my direction. They would find the case for sure when they reached the park. Millions of them covered a long search line that stretched north and south as far as I could see. Frantically, I spoke into the ring. "Ariel! Ariel! We have an issue! Please answer!" After what seemed like forever, but was only a minute, Ariel responded. "What is happening?" The shadow figures didn't wait until night. I see a long line of them combing the field across the street coming in my direction. There is no way to get around them. There are too many. "They'll find the case if I stay here," I replied. At that moment, the case began to vibrate again. "The case is vibrating again," I shouted. Ariel responded with assurance. "Stay calm. What is your estimate of their arrival at your current location?" "They aren't moving too quickly, but I think they will get across the fence and to the road in about 15 or 20 minutes. "I'm not sure," I replied. "Okay, we have something in the works that we will expedite." "Wait for further instructions," she told me. Seeing the hat men in daylight, and so many of them churned a fear I didn't know I could muster. I knew I was invisible to them, but now I had doubts. That black vehicle I saw before drove by in a hurry. An omen, surely. A few minutes later, a voice came over my ring as the shadows approached, but it wasn't Ariel. A masculine voice said, "In a moment, a pickup truck will drive and park on the side of the road. The woman driver will get out and look at a map. The moment she does, run with the case and jump in the back. Make sure you move immediately when she opens the map," the voice reiterated. I replied with the military, "Roger," and looked for the truck. It arrived only 2 minutes later. When the truck stopped, someone was burning some trash or something nearby, and the smoke wafted over the grounds. Through the smoke, I recognized an old Chevy truck with two-tone colors, orange and brown. It could have been red originally. As the voice said, an older woman with a baseball cap got out to look at her map. That was my cue. I bound for the truck just as a large box truck rolled past, obscuring the view of the hat men. The bed of the Chevy was full of old toolboxes and other antiques. Unnecessarily, I laid myself down near the tailgate and crossed my fingers. Then I could hear the woman return to the cab and continue her jaunt south toward the I-5 junction. I peeked over the side of the bed only to see the black figures running now. I think they were suspicious of the ruse. And to my amazement, lights flashed in the sky overhead like starships warping into view. It was the holy angels of God. They descended with their fiery weapons and engaged the shadows who broke ranks with loud, eerie screams. There were thousands of them on both sides. The human world seemed oblivious to the spiritual battle. One man was casually mowing his lawn, and another was checking her mail. Yet, as we moved forward on the road, angels flew over us, closing in on the shadows like a zipper zipping up. In the spirit, I could hear screeches and yells and see what appeared to be smoke and lightning cascade over the battle. A few of the shadows slipped past. One of them reached the truck and grabbed the tailgate. It was hideous and completely black. Its eyes glowed a fearsome red. I used my left hand, the one with the ring, to swing at the creature. Its eyes widened as a ring arose from the pile of antiques to hit him right in the face. As he fell onto the road below, an angel flew down, swooped him up with a blue glow, and dropped him in a dark hole that opened some distance away. It was comical in one way. The elderly woman driver was blaring her music in the cab. I think it was Creedence Clearwater Revival singing, "I Put a Spell on You." She was nodding to the music like headbanging with an intermittent head swirling. I I laughed loudly when she bellowed, "I ain't gonna take none of your fooling around." It was just a few seconds before we came to a stop sign at a four-way crossroad. Again, spruce and pine were sprinkled in each corner, and the power lines were dwarfed beneath them. To the right, in the direction of the enemy, was what looked like a farm building with a small green silo. To the left was a small power station with a fence around it. We turned left, and I caught a glimpse of the road. Remave. We crossed a bridge I assumed was an overpass to I-5, then stopped at Alpine Mini Storage to the right. There was a long row of storage garages the lady must have been trying to find. She parked the truck and looked for the office. The voiceover ring startled me with the words, "We must time our movement since it is during the day. On my mark, jump from the truck and run further down the road, staying in the trees and bushes as much as possible." The car whizzed by when he said, "On my mark, 1, 2, 3, jump." I ran just like he said. No one was around, but there were many houses. I kept the case low to the ground, hoping it would be helpful to do so. I ran about 100 yards when the ring told me to turn onto Palmer Drive. I just saw the sign and ran down the road until I reached the end of it. It was a dead-end road that opened onto a railroad track. I felt better already. Shist went the ring. "On my mark, run across the railroad track and stay on the left side heading south. You understand?" he questioned. "Yes, sir. Go across the tracks and follow them south on my left side," I replied. I could hear the awful sounds of the evil hordes behind me again. It sounded like a million wheezing voices. It could put chills down my spine if I had one. I asked the voice on the ring, "How limited are the shadows by the environment?" "Don't worry," he responded. "Like you, it is hit or miss. You can go through a wall only to be blocked by another. If something is moving, it is even more random. Motion has more energy." "Okay, listen for my mark," he cautioned. I heard a train rolling down the tracks in my direction, and I had a feeling about what was about to happen. The case began to vibrate once more as I saw some hat men approaching. "Can I go now?" I pleaded. "No," he commanded loudly. "We don't want them to follow you across." This was going to be close, I thought. "Listen for my mark." "Hold it," the voice commanded. "Mark, now! Get across!" I jumped across the tracks just as the train reached my spot, when the shadows were only meters away. It was too close for the engineer to see a briefcase float by. That would have been baffling for sure. As the train passed, I saw a shadow figure's head pass through one of the cars, then get hit with tremendous force by the next car. It screeched like a dying owl. "Run!" said the voice. I took off running beside the train as it flew past me. Thankfully, this train was a long one. I was surprised at how fast I could run, making me feel young again. I guess it helps to know I have no lactose buildup. I ran for what I thought was half a mile at the most until I could see I-5 again. There was a dirt road or path to my right. The ring said, "Turn now. Run until you get to Business 5. The path and the environment were deserted until I approached a small park. There wasn't much to look at, but a few people were milling about. Fortunately, there was also much undergrowth, so I sprinted from tree to tree and bush. It was as beautiful as expected, except for the ghostly screams in the distance. I made my way to the right side of the path facing the highway, looked both ways, seeing no vehicles, sprinted across the double yellow lines to a giant tree closest to the road, putting the case behind it. I scanned the location, noticing a no trespassing sign and a metal gate a little further back. Of course, as I didn't technically exist, I could go around the entrance and technically not trespass. The driveway or dirt road was mainly under the forest cover, making me feel more at ease. However, the sun was finally setting. I knew I might see the silver ship, especially since I was in the forest again, and closer to the mountain. The forest was not that thick, however. From the looks of it, it was harvested for timber in the last 30 years. So many newer trees were planted in rows. Soon the road wound slightly to my right, until it made a sharp right turn and ended on another dirt road running east and west. "Which way?" I spoke to the ring, holding it close to my mouth. "Turn to your right. you will see an open area. Turn off the path, but leave it moving toward the large building to your south. Do not go to the building closest to you, as that is not the rendezvous point," said the voice with a tone of relief. I did as the voice instructed and saw the back of a building surrounded by a parking lot. To my joy was a coterie of angels surrounding its perimeter with their weapons drawn. When one of them saw me, he motioned to his companions. The perimeter widened to encompass me as I approached. One of the angels grasped my shoulders and lifted me onto the flat roof of the building. I could see a painted dove icon on the sides of the lightly colored beige walls, so I assumed it was a local church. That would make sense, I thought to myself. They brought me down into the presence of at least 5 or 6 angels. They all looked formidable and taller than most angels I saw in Middle Heaven. I knew they were warriors with shields and weapons, yet they were different. They didn't look like earthly depictions of warrior angels from Roman legend. Instead, they looked more like science fiction characters. Their weapons were like Star Wars lightsabers, but only one color: blue. Their shields appeared like force fields when activated, but disappeared when strapped to their belts. They wore robes with a silver belt, strapping them in place. One of the angels approached. "Greetings, I'm Michael. You've gotten caught up in a skirmish for a reason. Your notes will be a warning to your world, specifically your homeland. I've been at work, mostly in the East, where Satan's throne sits. However, he is moving to North America. Already, Moloch is abandoning his position, and his minions prepare for his arrival to Birmingham using their possessions for great pomp. You snatched one of his cursed items used to bring fear into the hidden tribes and watchers. Thank you for retrieving it." I was amazed that I was speaking to the Archangel Michael, but I imagined that would be nothing compared to the glory of my Lord. By the way, the angels do not hear our prayers. They are not God. Instead, they are individual servants of the Lord. God hears our prayers because he has the power to do so. The angels, however, are not omniscient. They hear only the Father and whoever stands in their presence. They do not obey us. They obey the Spirit of the Lord. Therefore, to see the warrior angel of the Lord here near Mount Shasta, I knew something momentous was at play, because the Lord sent him. "What is this case about anyway?" I begged a little for an answer. "Its history as a cursed item goes back to the Nazis. They were ruled by Satan himself, hoping to build his kingdom. We defeated him, and his second-in-command Moloch was exiled to America along with his consort," he replied. At that moment, I heard loud bangs outside the perimeter. Michael activated his sword. "The enemy fears losing Satan's curse, even to the point of attacking our stronghold. Therefore, give us the case. We cannot leave it here on this church and defile it," Michael said with a tone of authority. I handed the case to one of his fellow angels as a dark cloud enveloped the building. The green orbs moved in and out of the forest nearby. After they retrieved it, I quickly asked, "What's in it?" As they walked away, they said a skull was in it. Was I carrying a skull this whole time? They were gone before I could ask any more questions. It was one of those times I would have used an internet search engine if I had my old phone. I doubt even an internet search would reveal how Satan's image could appear from a cursed Nazi briefcase with a skull. I had to laugh to myself. I recorded all this, but no one will believe it. The other world outside of ours is too alien. Talk of spiritual battles was common when I was a young earthling in my church youth group. Yet we made it seem too individual and small, like random demons were looking for windows of opportunity. From this side, there's some truth to that. But I can tell you that they are organized and scheming in large numbers. Our spiritual battle with individual voices is just part of a larger narrative. The demons know that the one that controls the narrative rules the nations. Therefore, the gospel is the devil's primary target. It is God's story he wants to destroy, and us. Watching the battle unfold, I realized that the devil needed a cover story. He needs the human creatures to believe his story and justify his rule. For many years, he fooled them into thinking he didn't exist or was a caricature in a red suit. Now I realize the narrative is about ancient aliens or life on other planets. So great is the human faith in mud. They think life can arise anywhere there may be water and goo. The devil uses science and the gullibility of sinful humanity to reveal himself. He wants to be worshipped and take the place of God. God reveals himself through his story.